Every year, thousands of people decide to leave everything they know behind and move to another country. I've lived here for 5 years and I've watched a lot of them do it. Some successfully, some flop and maybe go back to where they came from, or move on to another spot. If you are even thinking about this move, you will want to watch this video to the end, because in this video, we will cover some of the things you may not have thought of while trying to make the decision to move to another country. I've probably seen about 100 people go through this exact decision-making process. Some of them I met right at the beginning, and some of them I watched leave 18 months later for reasons they probably could have seen coming if anyone had told them what to actually look at. Most of the content around moving here follows the same formula. Drone shots on the beach, the smoothie bowl, this is the best decision I've ever made, blah, blah, blah. This is not what this video is about. This is the video I wish I would have seen 5 years ago. Not to talk me out of it, I'd do it again, I don't regret it, but actually make me think it through instead of just following that feeling. That's what this video is going to be about. Talking about the decision itself and what it's actually like on the other side. Since arriving here, I've heard pretty much every version of the reason why, and sometimes people even lump their whys together. There's the economic reason. The dollar or whatever currency you're coming from probably goes a lot further here in Mexico. That's real. A one-bedroom that's $2,000 somewhere else might only cost $800 here. For a lot of people, especially remote workers or retirees on a fixed income, that math alone can be reason enough. And then there's the lifestyle reason. The weather, the ocean, pace of life, slower mornings, actual community instead of just strolling past your neighbor in the hallway. And then there's the third reason. People don't say this out loud very often. The escape. The escape from a relationship, from a career that burned them out, from the law, from a version themselves they didn't like in whatever city they came from. That one's harder to admit, and I think more common than people let on. It's not necessarily a bad reason, but it's one that requires self-honesty and reflection. Because if you're running from something instead of towards something, that reason has a way of following you wherever you are. Of the people I watch struggle the most, it's usually the ones who never separated out their reasons. They told themselves it was lifestyle when a big part of it was escape. So it's worth asking yourself which one you're actually working with. Probably it's more than one, and that's fine. You'll be more successful if you know which. Okay, this is where we dive into the big G. However you might feel about it, it's something that needs to be discussed. So stay with me. When a wave of people from wealthier economies moves into a place like Vallarta, it changes things. The rent goes up for locals who are paid in pesos, not dollars. What used to be affordable for people who've lived there for their entire lives start pricing them out. It's a real, measurable pattern in cities all over the world. I'm not saying don't move here. I moved here and I don't regret it. But I'm just saying, if you're moving somewhere, it's not necessarily a neutral act. You're not only changing your own life, you're stepping into an existing ecosystem, economic, social, cultural, and your presence has weight whether or not you want to acknowledge it. So what does this responsibility actually look like in practice? A few things to think about. Learning the language shouldn't be optional. It's not only just a baseline respect, it's also a necessity in my personal experience and opinion. Otherwise, you're just always going to be seen as a guest in someone else's country or a tourist with a longer visa. So I would start by trying to learn the language. Also, support local. Starbucks doesn't need your pesos, but the little family with the taco stand down the street, they probably do. Understanding the housing market you're stepping into, and not treating a home as simply affordable without asking affordable for who and at whose expense. And honestly, just staying curious instead of comfortable. It's really easy to build that little expat bubble, the same restaurants, the same Facebook groups, the same 5 friends who all moved there from the same place you did, and actually never integrate or get to know the magical place you fell in love with in the first place. I don't have this perfected. Even after 5 years, I'm not here to lecture anyone from my high horse. I'm just letting you know what I've seen, and that this video is a shortcut to that awareness rather than finding it out the slow way, like I did. Let's talk about how you actually work through this. Not the Instagram version, the real version. When you sit down and try to figure out your reason for moving. And if it's financial, like we mentioned earlier in the video, I would maybe start with a spreadsheet. as unglamorous as that sounds. You want to know the real cost of living, not just the blog post numbers. How do you find that information? By talking to people. When I first came here and received that job offer, I immediately took the opportunity to get out in the street, and I started talking to foreigners that had just moved here, foreigners that had lived here for a while. I talked to Mexican locals. I literally asked them everything. And this will give you an actual idea of what things actually look like. Things maybe you didn't think about is healthcare access and how that actually applies to your situation, how income taxes work if you're earning from outside of the country, whether your work can even legally continue the way it currently is in the place where you're from if you're not a resident back home anymore. Just an FYI, also a shameless plug for myself, if you subscribe to this channel, I plan on doing several videos covering all of those subjects I just mentioned. Then there's the harder stuff that doesn't fit into a spreadsheet. This is the thing a lot of people don't talk about. What do you lose by leaving? What are you sacrificing? Family proximity, the ability to just show up at your parents' house on that random Sunday afternoon, certain friendships that maybe won't survive through the distance. That's the cost that people don't tell you about. Now, after 5 years, you eventually adapt and learn to figure those things out. But it still doesn't make it easy, and it's still difficult. And you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't actually think about those things ahead of time. One thing I highly suggest is coming to visit the place where you plan on living multiple times in different areas and maybe even different times of the year to be sure that that place is right for you. For example, lots of people come to Vallarta in the winter where the weather is incredible, it's full of happy people, business is good, the restaurants are full, and they think, this is amazing, I want to live here. Then summer comes and the weather can be hot. It can be full of storms. It can be very humid. It can be full of bugs. And as many people just recently discovered, full of crocodiles. Then you'll want to explore what the legal side of it is, the temporary residency portion. What does that look like? What are the income requirements? What do the appointments at the consulates look like? We're figuring out if you even qualify. I'll be doing a video that explains exactly how that went for me and how that goes in general. But that needs a full video. It can't be done in a few minutes. So that's where I'm at. It's not the, I moved to Vallarta, look at me, I'm by the beach. It's about the decision and what you need to weigh out. And here's the responsibility that you need to take seriously, not just ignoring it for a nicer view. In the future, we'll get into the paperwork side of temporary residency, permanent residency, what that actually costs, what the consulate appointments are like, and all the documents that catch people off guard. It's going to be more logistical and less philosophical, but I think you need this episode first because the visa process means nothing if you haven't actually sat down and asked why you are moving in the first place. This is a conversation you're interested in having, whether you're thinking about a move like this for yourself or just curious about what it actually looks like behind the scenes, subscribe because this video is not a one-off. I'll see you in the next one.